leadership can be dangerous. So let's talk about the number one mistake leaders make. The number one mistake, and it's the first chapter in the book, is what I call the top-down attitude. Now, the whole book, you don't go 1 is the worst and 10 is the least of the worst. But the number one mistake is what I think the worst mistake leaders make. And this is on page 6 of the listening guide, and it trickles down to a lot of other things. The top-down attitude. What is it? Well, it's an attitude that says, I'm on the top because I'm the smartest. I'm the boss, so you serve me. I'm the leader, so I'm going to control everything. I make all the big decisions. That's a top-down attitude. Did you ever play King of the Mountain when you were a little boy or a little girl? King of the Mountain is still being played today after all these years. Bunch of kids, there's a little hill, and whoever gets on top of the hill and can push the other kids down, they are what's called the king of the mountain. And top-down leaders love to play king of the mountain, and they say, because I'm on top, I'm the most important. And therefore, everybody serves me. And it results in these things: abuse of authority, dictatorship and decision-making, dirty delegation, lack of listening, a controlling management style, and an egocentric leadership, which means it's all about me. It's not about we, it's about me. That's the top-down attitude. The greater the leadership role, the less time there seems to be for people. It's ironic, isn't it? In my organization, World Venture, we had 650 missionaries in 60 countries of the world. And then I had a home office staff of 60 people. And then I had donors everywhere, all over the country. And the more people you oversee, the harder it is to give yourself to have time with those people. Number two, the greater the leadership role, the more important people work is. Studies have shown leadership effectiveness has more to do with people work than anything. And when you recruit somebody new to your team and you're interviewing people to hire them, don't you ask the question of their references, how are they with people, right? What are their people skills like? Hire for attitude, train for skill. Attitude's more important than skill, and people work is more important. What are their people skills like? And number three, learn that people are opportunities, not interruptions. Here's a simple test. When you're working at your work, wherever you happen to work, nowadays people don't work at their offices so much anymore. I work at Starbucks a lot. I mean, I don't work at Starbucks, but I work at Starbucks. You know what I'm saying? And so a nice thing about working at Starbucks is people don't interrupt me because generally they don't know who I am. So that's also a good answer to those people who said, how do I create some boundaries? I know a lot of pastors who have their sacred space and their secret space to do their studies and their concentrated time when they need to be away from the people. But the ironic thing is, people are so much more important. So here's the test. If somebody walks into your workspace, is it an interruption or opportunity? Now, my personality, it's an interruption. Because you see, I'm pure German. Now, not all Germans are like me, but all the ones I know are. We live for lists. And I've had a great day if at the end of the day I've checked everything off my list. Any of you like that? Amen. Got an amen over here. In fact, I am so sick, I will put stuff at the end of the list that I've already done just so I can check it off. Because the longer the list, the better, right? Because that's accomplishment. And that's what my father taught me. Arbeit. Work hard. But the funny thing is, it's not about. So if you're the opposite, like my wife Donna, if somebody walks into her space, it's not an interruption. She lights up like a butterfly. It's an opportunity. She's a total people person. Which kind of person makes a better leader? Now, you know that's a trick question because they both. It really doesn't have to do. But I think in this particular point, task-oriented type A personalities struggle with giving undivided attention to people. A maverick is another name for a visionary, a dreamer, an entrepreneur, a change agent, a nonconformist. Some of you are mavericks in this room, but some of you are not. And here's my question: how do you treat them if they are in your organization? And do you realize how valuable they are to your future? In times of change, learners inherit the earth, while the learned find themselves beautifully equipped to deal with a world that no longer exists. Would you say we're living in times of change? Yeah, wow. In times of change, learners inherit the earth. There's that word again. Learners. And mavericks and dreamers and visionaries and entrepreneurs help us learn uncomfortable things we need to learn. This general, who was the former U.S. Army Chief of Staff, says if you don't like change, you're going to like irrelevance even less. Because the alternative to change is irrelevance. You see, we live in a world that is constantly changing. Now, this line here represents your ministry, your church, your organization. And just think about, we're in 2017 right now, but just think about how different the world was in 1997. You remember 1997? It was just 20 years ago. But think of all the things that are different than 1997. The biggest is there were no smartphones. I think cell phones were just really coming of age. That thing alone is amazing. So here's what happens. Our past success can be our greatest roadblock to future effectiveness because what worked back there probably does not work today. Things that worked so well in your church back then don't work today. And have any of you ever pastored a turnaround church where you've had to take a dead church and bring it back to life? Yeah, I bet you have. That's one of the greatest jobs. I admire pastors. You know, it's easier to give birth than to raise the dead. And those of you who've been called to raise the dead and to turn around a dead church, I applaud you. But oftentimes that would be, that line there would be when a ministry, and all ministries have their good times and their bad times. But if you take over a ministry when it's really been failing, people's natural tendency is to do what? To go back. Let's go back to the good old days. People ask me, what is dirty delegation? Overmanaging is one of the cardinal sins of poor leadership. Nothing frustrates those who work for you more than sloppy delegation with too many strings attached. That's what this picture is. It's a person who is so controlled by management, they are absolutely frozen. I had an email the other day, a lady wrote me who saw one of my little videos on micromanagement on YouTube and said, thank you for that. I am so micromanaged. My boss manages every 5 minutes of my day and wants me to be held accountable. It's a toxic environment. Yeah, you're shaking your head. How can people do that? But they do. It's rampant. Delegation should match each worker's follow-through ability. Some people need more supervision than others. You don't treat everybody the same. I love John Ortberg. He's a pastor out west. He said, I don't have a problem with delegation. I love to delegate. I'm either lazy enough or busy enough or trusting enough or congenial enough that the notion of leaving tasks in someone else's lap doesn't just sound wise to me, it sounds attractive. I love it. Delegation. It's freedom to do other stuff and to do the important stuff. Control freaks feel that they have to do everything. If you're the kind of leader that can't leave for a couple of weeks without the place falling apart, then I know you're not a very good leader. Because good leaders train others to take their place. In fact, I was always taught Every job, every leader's job is to work themselves out of a job. You heard that before? It's true. When I left World Venture, by the way, one of the guys on my team, I don't know if you've ever had this experience, I led that place for 20 years. I was the president. I was the CEO, and then one of my guys, Jeff, who had been on my team, the board appointed to replace me. And I left. It was December 31st, my last day. I thought, Jeff, just call me if you need anything, you know? Just call me. Guess how many times Jeff called me? 0. They never call, they never write. I guess, I could feel like, wow, they don't care about me anymore. Have you ever had that experience? You walk away and you never hear from them again? And then I thought, well, I guess maybe I did an okay job because he didn't need me. I guess I'd developed him enough. You have to understand you're not indispensable.